Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President, Windows and Windows Live Division, Microsoft, Stephen Sinofsky.
Well, good morning, everybody. We are pretty excited to be here today. Wait, this is Microsoft. We are super excited to be here today. I'd like to welcome everybody to Windows 8. So today we're going to talk about Windows 8, and it's a launch. What we're launching today is we're launching a new opportunity for developers, a new opportunity for you to express yourself and to get the most out of PCs, no matter what size or shape. And so we're going to talk about a lot of new things today about Windows 8. And we really couldn't be more excited to share that with you, to share it with everybody who's listening in on the webcast, and even some of the folks on the Windows team all around Microsoft. So let's just go ahead and get started. I want to get started by talking a little bit about Windows 7. It was 3 years ago at this conference that we unveiled Windows 7 with our first developer preview of that product. And we've come a long way since then. And we're very excited to share that we are approaching over 450 million copies of Windows 7 sold. But wait, it actually gets better. Because today, actually sort of like Friday at like noon, I can share with you that Windows 7 consumer usage is finally greater than Windows XP usage. You know, when we talk about improving our products along the way and responding to the needs of the customers in the marketplace, and one of the things that's very exciting about how we've managed to improve Windows 7 over that time is, you know, we've delivered over 1,500 product changes to Windows 7 since we released it to manufacturing. And so those are not security updates. Those are just things that added small things, that fixed features that you said weren't quite right, and also addressed some of the challenges in the product. But over 1,500 product changes since we RTM. Also, since we RTM Windows 7, we released Internet Explorer 9. And so we're excited to have reached a point where Internet Explorer 9 is the fastest growing Windows 7 web browser. And it really brought a whole new dimension to browsing and the whole idea of hardware acceleration. And that the device you use and the hardware that it has and the operating system you run on do matter to web browsing. And so all those fish swimming around really fast make a huge difference in everyday browsing. And we also are pleased to share that we have over 542 million people using our Windows Live services. So whether it's Hotmail or Messenger, SkyDrive, or signing on with Live ID, 500 million people every single month use Windows Live. And so with Internet Explorer 9 and Windows Live, we're talking about some foundational elements of what will become Windows 8. And so we want to start by talking about Windows 8 by talking a little bit about this changing world of computing. Things are a lot different than they were 3 years ago with computing. And they're a lot different than they were in, say, 1995, the last time Windows underwent a pretty significant and bold overhaul. So, you know, first, form factors and user interaction models create a whole new set of scenarios and opportunities for you. I mean, it's incredible to think about the evolution of desktops to laptops to convertibles to now small slate computers, or as we call them, Windows tablets. These form factors really have changed the way that the types of software that you can write and the solutions that you can deliver to customers. It's just incredibly exciting what we can do. You know, touch is unbelievable. So, you know, we talk a lot about touch. We did touch in Windows 7. We probably thought that there were other things that we could do, and so we've really pushed a lot on the ways that we can deliver touch to you. You know, and I think touch is going to become a huge part of interaction. And what we're going to see is something that I don't think a lot of people are expecting, which is as soon as you've used touch on a PC, you want touch on all your PCs. Those people who say touch is only for small devices or it's only for lightweight things, I promise you, the minute you use a touch device with Windows 8, by the time you go back to your laptop, your desktop, you're going to be hitting that screen. And I promise you'll have fingerprints all over your monitor if it doesn't support touch. You know, mobility is a whole new dimension to computing these days. It used to be that it was enough to be able to just carry your laptop around, put it down, plug it in, and use it. But now you want devices that you can use while you're carrying them around, or just seated kind of uncomfortably or reclined. And so a whole new way of using computing has really arisen, and we want Windows to respond to that. You know, you guys want much richer connectivity and sharing between applications. The idea that applications are silos and don't talk to each other or talk to each other through very narrow interfaces, that's just not a rich enough interaction model for customers. They want much more of they don't want their apps to stand alone, they want a web of applications. And we also know that you want a stronger connection to your customers, that you want to be able to reach all the customers that are Windows. And with Windows 8, you'll be able to reach everybody that has a Windows PC with our product and sell them, offer them, provide them the software that you write, that you learn about here today. And we also learned that the world is different because services are an intrinsic part of the software that everybody uses. You just don't write an app anymore if it doesn't connect to some web backend, doesn't share information or consume information from a service. And so it's very important that we recognize this as we go and evolve Windows 8. So what is Windows 8? Well, it's going to be hard to sum it up now. We're at a developer preview stage, but I want everybody to think about two important elements of Windows 8. First, everything that was great about Windows 7, well, we took that and we made it even better in Windows 8. So if you've got a Windows 7 PC, everything that runs on that Windows 7 PC is going to run on that Windows 8 PC. And so we've got a huge base of support and an amazing body of success upon which to build, and Windows 8 builds on all of that. And that's one of the things that we mean by a no-compromise solution. You get to build on all of that success of Windows 7 as you move forward with Windows 8. And that was a very bold thing that we chose to do. We didn't abandon the success of Windows 8 and all of that work, those professional applications, those entertainment applications, all of that work, an integral part of Windows 8. And then we did something that we took a step back and we said, what's the boldest thing we could say? And what we said is, we're going to reimagine Windows. From the chipset to the experience, Windows 8 reimagines what Windows can be. And we mean so many things by that, and you're going to hear that word a lot. What we really want to talk about today is how from the chipset, and we mean the work that we've done on Windows for ARM, all the way up through a brand new user experience that's touch first, but equally at home with a mouse and a keyboard. We have a new range of capabilities, scenarios, form factors, all enabled by this bold reimagination of Windows 8. And you know what we mean, like let's look at the world of working on ARM. You know, the role of an operating system is to help you, the software developers, do two things. First, to abstract out the hardware and peripherals that are connected to your software, so that you can write software and express your creativity and work on a broad range of hardware. But then, when you want to get access to that hardware, to the unique capabilities that the world of hardware bring, Windows' job is to let that all surface and to let that shine through so that you can build unique solutions for unique hardware. So Windows 8 takes that bold step and reimagines the kinds of hardware that Windows can work on, but at the same time allows you to take advantage of all of that unique hardware. And so we're going to talk a lot about all the role of hardware and user experience, but I do want everybody to know that the demos that we're showing you today are equally at home on ARM and on x86. And so we're very excited in the progress that we've made. And we have a whole row of machines that we're going to show you as we progress throughout the day. Now, what are we going to do to show off reimagining Windows? Well, we think that the best way to do that is to let the product shine. Now, we are at the developer preview stage, but that means the product has a lot of features to show. So we're going to do 4 big demonstrations for you today. First, we're going to show off the Windows 8 experience and how we reimagined the way that you could interact with a PC from the very basics of starting programs, switching programs, and running applications. And then we're going to show you how to build these incredibly cool, what we call metro-style applications. They're full screen, they're immersive, they're touch-centric. And we're going to show you how to build those from the ground up using world-class development tools. And then we're going to show you the hardware platform that all of this runs on. And we're going to show you the incredible range of form factors and the incredible range of hardware that you can run on, or hardware peripherals and devices you can run on. And then we're going to show you how that all connects up to cloud-based services with Windows Live. and how Windows Live can become an integral part of your Windows 8 computing experience. I'm going to bring this all to you in a series of demonstrations, but that's going to only scratch the surface of Windows 8. It's a bold product. We have over 100 sessions here today, and this afternoon we're going to do these big picture sessions where each one of these topics gets a really deep dive from the architects of that area, and we're just going to spend a lot of time really introducing you to a reimagined Windows. So I want to start off with the Windows 8 experience, but before I do that, I know something is on everybody's mind. They're like, you guys, you're going to add a bunch of code, and then Windows is going to get bigger, and it's going to get slower, and you're going to layer all this on top, and you're going to lose sight of fundamentals. And so, you know what? We didn't. I promise you, we did not lose sight of fundamentals. Some of you might remember a machine that I held up 3 years ago. It's one of these netbooks. Does everybody remember those? This is this machine I held up quite a while ago, and it's a Lenovo that was one of the first generation netbooks. And it has 1 gigabyte of memory, an Atom-based processor, and it was very cool. This machine has been around the world. I used it as my primary machine for about 2 years. And so it's actually running Windows 8, and it's running Windows 8 in a pretty cool way. And so let me show you how well it's running Windows 8. This is that very same machine running Windows 7 SP1. This is Task Manager. Windows 7 SP1, and you see it's using about 404 megabytes of the 1 gigabyte of memory. Windows 7 SP1 also has about 32 processes running. This is Windows 8 today. It uses only 281 megabytes of memory. It dropped 3 processes in the process of doing that. What does that really tell you? Well, when we showed up and showed you the Windows 7 preview release, I said that about half the memory was free. Turns out it was about 540 megs of memory were used, and there were about 34 processes. By the time we got to Windows 7 SP1, those 1,500 changes, path to RTM, yielded about 404 megabytes of memory consumed out of 1 gigabyte, and 32 processes. So with Windows 8 today, 281 meg consumed, leaving almost 3/4 of 1 gigabyte of memory free for you to use with your applications and your software. But don't each one of you use it all. And then 29 processes. And so that's quite an accomplishment. And we are very, very focused on the fundamentals of Windows 8. You will hear lots about that as this week progresses, and there are a lot of sessions about that. But it's super important to understand that everything we're showing you today is built into Windows. It is Windows. We're not building layers on layers. We've built everything natively into Windows. And so how does that work? Well, I think the best person to show off the user experience is the person responsible for all the specifications and all the features in Windows 8, and that's Julie Larson-Green, the Corporate Vice President of Windows Program Management. So let's invite Julie up.
Okay, let's get started. Here I am on my new Windows device with Windows 8 running on it, and I have my lock screen across the front. So when I resume from sleep, I go right to my lock screen where it shows me all the at-a-glance information that I might want to know about, things that have been happening while I was away. It says that I'm supposed to be doing a demo, good thing. I had all my email messages, it's a light day, and all the things that battery, internet connection, other things I might want to see. When I'm ready to start using Windows, I just swipe up with my finger, and I go to my new login screen. This is called Picture Password. And very easily, I'm going to press on my daughter's nose, press on the lemonade, and draw a line. And very quickly, on my mobile device, I logged in. And now you all know my password, but luckily it's easy to change. Before I get going any further, I want to show you a couple of things that will help you follow me in the demo. We turned on touch points in the demo, so when I press on the screen, you're going to see my finger in a little circle there, and that's just turned on so you can follow me without an over-the-camera shoulder. So let's take a look at the start screen. The start screen is Windows. This is the place you come to when you start Windows, and it's the place you go to get to all the applications that you guys are going to build that people are going to love. All the applications that I have on here today are just samples that we've written to showcase the platform, not announcing any new utilities or any new features in Windows. They're simply written to show off what the platform is capable of doing. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm just going to swipe to the right and take a look at all the programs. I'm swiping to the left, and let's look at what these tiles are all about. Each one of these tiles represents an application. I have a tile for my Windows Live Mail up here telling me that Matt Berg has just sent me a message. I have my calendar. I have my news reader on my current feed. I have paused music. So I scroll down. You see the other applications. Some of them probably look familiar to you. Task Manager. Too much practicing. Task Manager, Notepad, the pinned people and people that I want to interact with. I have a bunch of games. And everything that's on here is personal to me, and it's only the things that I want on my screen. And it's very easy for me to go ahead and customize and rearrange and make it look exactly like I want.
So this start screen, it's not just a launcher for programs. The start screen represents a unification and integration of program launching, switching between running programs, and also notifications and gadgets are all integrated into one start screen. So you don't have to look all over the place. You guys don't have to write code all over the place to integrate with Windows. One place makes it really super convenient, and it's highly customizable.
Right. And so here I am with my, I'm not in Redmond today, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off the screen. I'm going to drag out. It doesn't go into a mode or anything. I can just automatically drag around to where I want it to go. I can even use two hands to arrange it, and dropped it. We'll go back in. I can easily just drag around and rearrange. Go ahead and select it to the end and drop it here. Pick this one up. But you saw how I'm kind of scrolling in a long list. If I want to get faster access to all the places in my program list, instead of scrolling along many, many pages, I'm going to go ahead and pinch with my finger. So watch closely. I'm going to go like this, and it's going to zoom me out to see the entire set of the things that I have on my system. So I can very easily get to new places, get to the games group. I can rearrange these as well. So I just drag it out, just like I did with the other ones. I can position things in a new place, which makes it super easy for me to go and rearrange and get access to the things I really care about. So I have one group in here. I can name these groups and order these groups. This one's a games group. I just swipe down and selects the group, and I can name the group. Using the on-screen keyboard, I'll go in here and click Games. Save that. And now I have games. And then to go back, you just do the same gesture on the way out, as I just pinch and go out. So it makes it very easy for me to customize and rearrange and to get exactly what I want on the screen, exactly the way I want it. I can also customize the look of my start screen and my user tile. And that's pretty easy to do too. So I'm going to click here, press here, go to my new user tile, and we have a built-in webcam with Windows, and this computer has both a front-facing and back-facing. And unfortunately, to get a new picture, I have seen what I look like on these webcams. Not doing that. So I brought Mort, and he's going to be my picture for today. Whoa, I need to get out of there. I click there. Mort. That was good. I'm going to go ahead and decide that that's what I want, select it, and change my user tile. And now if I go to the lock screen, all the pictures and things I have on my system, I just click and change my lock screen. So I've showed you a little bit about how to personalize Windows.
All with the touch-centric control panel as well.
And personalize Windows, and now let's launch some of those Metro-style applications that you guys are going to be building. Take more from me. So I'm going to go down the end here and launch a game. This game is actually really fun to play. It's a touch-first, full-screen, immersive application. And as I drag across, I'm going to start to play it. And it does three-letter words, so that makes it easy. And I don't mess up that one. Yeah. I see another one. And I can continue launching by going back to the start screen. I'm swiping my thumb from the right-hand side of the screen and bringing up start. I'm going to launch my newsreader application, which is another Metro-style application. Now, these applications, their user interface for these applications you get by swiping up from the bottom. And here I can add the new feeds. I can refresh, remove, or whatever capabilities your app wants to have. They come from what we call the app bar. When I click into this headline here, it's going to give me a newspaper-like layout for me to be able to read my blog. And really fast and fluidly, I can swipe through and read my articles. We'll go back to start, again swiping from the right, and launch a popular social networking app using open APIs. We created a sample application here. I'm going to go into my news group and check out my news feeds. And then we'll launch a little video. And I know this video has soundtrack, so again, I'm going to swipe from the right-hand side of the screen and bring up the settings. In context of playing the video, I have access to all my system settings that I might want to do while I'm working with apps. Here I have the sound muted. And above this, I also have the settings for the application itself. So the applications share the settings space with the system settings to make it easier for people to not have to go out of context of what they're trying to get done just to change the volume or access something about your settings of your app. So here we are back in my video, and to switch between these applications, I just go ahead and swipe out from the left-hand side of the screen. It was fast and fluid to get back to where I was. If I want to view two things on the screen, I can dock one to the right and then, or to the left, and then continue swiping. It is pre-release software. I'm going to dock it this way. Or not. There we go. And so I can easily do two things at one time. So I can add to my news feed while I'm watching my movie, play my game while I'm watching my movie, or doing my homework, or...
Well, of course, Windows is multitasking from the kernel on up, and so all we're showing here is the fact that two applications can always be running in Windows. And this ability to dock them is a really cool opportunity for you to sort of create like a heads-up view of your application.
And so every application has both that docking view and the side view. Now I'm going to launch an application that we are shipping with Windows 8. It's Internet Explorer for Metro style, and it has here loaded a web page for me. And you can see how fast and fluid the browser is, and how easy it is for me to pan and zoom around in this application. This is all built on top of the Internet Explorer that you see today, Internet Explorer 9, all hardware accelerated, and makes it super fast and easy for me to get around in my web pages.
It's also completely Chromeless, if you notice, and I don't think anything is better than an entirely Chrome-free browsing experience.
I couldn't agree more.
Oh, I get it. I know what I just said. Oh.
He's so funny. So swiping up from the bottom, I bring up the app bar again, the user interface elements for Internet Explorer, and I can do all the things you'd expect to be able to do in the browser. I can turn on in private and do in private browsing. I can create new tabs, go to my pinned apps, launch a pinned website.
Or do that later.
Or not. I can also just easily type into the browser. I'm back in there. Go back to here. And type in my URL using the on-screen keyboard. Let's see. I'm going to go to Whole Foods. Or not. Or not. Let's skip over to this other machine. Wow, that was loud. Okay. We're in Internet Explorer. I'm swiping. I'm zooming. I bring up the UI. And we're going to add a pinned. There we go. And I'm going to go back and type in my URL, go to this Whole Foods page, and I can span and zoom around and do all the things that you're used to doing in the browser. So let's go ahead and do a couple new things. I'm going to go ahead and select this text here by just selecting it and dragging. And it's always something that you want to do when you're on a web page. You often want to send a snippet of some content around to someone or send a link or a URL. You end up having to leave your application, launch another application, find the person you want to send it to, and copy and paste in the content or copy in the links. With Windows 8, it's possible for applications to interact with each other much more directly and help the customer or the user stay in the context of the application that they're doing to complete their task. And we think this will create a whole new set of scenarios for you to create with your application. So I'm going to use something out the right-hand side. We call these things out here on the right charms. And the charms are the way that the applications can power the system and add new capabilities to Windows. So I'm going to click the share charm. And when I do that, I see all the applications that I support the share contract, which you'll learn a lot more about in Antoine's presentation in a little bit. It also has a kind of an MRU list of the people that I've frequently shared with in the past. I'm going to launch an application called FriendSend, which is a sample application that we wrote. And you see that the content that I copied from Internet Explorer shows up inside this application. This application can show the kinds of capabilities it has to do with the content coming from Internet Explorer.
You can kind of think of sharing as a very semantically rich clipboard almost, that when all of your applications can share with each other, even with applications that they didn't know about when you wrote your application. So you don't have to try to figure out how to get connected to everywhere else. We'll help you do that through the sharing, what we call contracts.
And as I'm typing here, you're seeing autocomplete and spell checking. That's also something that's system-wide.
Spell checking throughout the whole system. I was going to be pissed if they didn't applaud for that one.
I don't think you cook, so I'm going to choose somebody else here. Let's see, maybe my friend Alice, and I'll share that. And so now I can get right back to browsing without having to come back to and find where I left off. Bring out the charms again, and go back and show you a couple other ways that applications can power the system using search. Go into search, and here you see search pretty much like you would expect in Windows 7. I can search my applications, my settings, my files. And this is what's you'd expect to see, and pretty much what everyone does today, which is search your local hard drive or search the entire universe over the internet. My Bing application here will go ahead and search the entire internet for me. But with Windows 8, applications can make their content available for people to search directly. So while in context of looking for something, it's very easy for an end user to go through and find and filter the content based on the applications that you've created. So here I have my music app. I'm going to search for Viper Creek. I think you guys are going to see Viper Creek on Wednesday. I can go ahead and launch my music from here. Start playing the music, I think. Sound.
It's probably muted.
And if I still want to see what's going on with Viper Creek in some other context now, I go back to search, and I can search for tweets or any other application that has no knowledge about Viper Creek and quickly search through and see what's happening there. So the applications are really powering the system with new capabilities. And as you get more and more applications, the system gets richer and richer. So here I am in my social networking app. I'll show you one more way that applications can add power and show their content for people to interact with on Windows 8. So here's going to do a little tweet about the concert that I just went to when I went and saw Viper Creek Club. So it was a cool concert. Look at that autocomplete there, huh? I typed concert on this machine before. And I also want to add a picture. So I pressed the little picture button, and it took me right to my hard drive and my pictures folder, and all the pictures that I have on my hard disk are right here. And I see that I have one. But often I have pictures in other places that I have access to. I have access to them on friends' social networking sites, on my own social networking sites. And those social networking sites can add the capability to share content from them right into the file picker. So I'm going to choose one that we wrote called Photo Feeder that has some pictures from my friend Sarah. And I'll go ahead and select her picture. And so I can have pictures come from a variety of things. I don't have to copy them to the hard drive to be able to access and use them. They can stay stored in the cloud inside your application and then be accessed and used without having to copy them to the hard drive. So I'm going to go ahead and import these.
Feel free.
So I think this Amazing Lights one looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and click here. And I'm going to tweet that. And there you go. My tweet is live. I'm going to go back to start. And that was really a super quick overview of some of the new things about the bold new Metro style interface for Windows 8. I showed you how launching and switching applications and getting notifications is super fast and fluid. I showed you how applications can be side by side, how applications power the system with new capabilities and new functionality, how apps can talk to other apps, how apps can talk to the cloud, and this works across all your Windows devices.
Actually, here's another machine that Julie is logged into, and it's a pretty cool machine too. How are we doing there?
Don't watch me.
I'm just trying to see. Oh, how are we doing there? Oh, there we go. So, you know, I can pan around. Look, it sticks to your finger, just like you would expect. I can scroll all the way over here. I can launch the Bing app that I can't see.
No, don't.
What? Listen.
Skip it.
Okay, and then check this out. Well, I can't see. And then if you look here, you can actually see that there's more the picture that Julie took before, and it's synced all the way over here. And there's I could go and change user tile, and you can see the big picture of Mort that Julie just took, and it synced its settings over here. And we'll talk a lot about that soon. But oh, and what kind of machine is this one?
This is an ARM-based machine.
So.
That's it.
Well, thanks a lot, Julie. That's just a quick look at the user experience of Windows 8. You are going to get so addicted to using this product. I can't wait till you experience it. But I bet more than that, you want to understand how to build the apps for it that we just showed you. And so let's talk about building those apps. Now, to build those apps, actually, I made a mistake. Let's make sure we talk about the Windows 8 experience and what you saw. What you saw was fast and fluid. So when we set out to design Windows 8, the whole idea was you should be able to move through things really quickly, touch-centric, keyboard and mouse if that's what you want. It's got to be responsive, alive, and beautiful. I mean, just from the minute you sign on and you see that start screen, you saw everything's moving, everything's animated, tiles are live. You can control all that as a developer, and you can control all that as an end user of the system. But the rich animations, the Metro-style apps, it really is, it feels like a different system. It's fast, it's fluid, it's snappy, it's responsive, it's alive. All the applications that you can write that are Metro-style are immersive and full screen. It allows you to write applications that get the full attention and full focus of your customers. They're touch first with a keyboard and mouse that works just as well as in a first-class citizen. Your choice of interaction. It's so important to the fundamentals of Windows 8 that you have this no-compromise experience. If you need to do a lot of input, you need high-precision user interface, you can use a keyboard and a mouse. If you want that touch experience, it's right there. And you know, I promise you're going to want all three. It's going to be great. It's a web of apps working together. And so what we set out to do is not do what you see in so many other platforms where the apps are these silos and they barely know about each other. They go through tiny APIs to do things. We had this bold notion that apps should work together as a web of apps on your machine. That when you get additional apps, the system just gets richer and richer. So that when I add an app and I can share out, other apps know how to pull information from my app. If I want to pull information from apps, I just do so without having to know in advance all the apps that are on a person's machine. And then you can experience this across devices, as we showed with syncing, and across PC architectures. No compromise for form factors, whether it's a desktop, a laptop, or one of these Windows tablets. We didn't show it because it's hard to project, but you can rotate these, you can use them in any proportions, and we'll talk a lot more about the different form factors in a little bit. So that's just one of the demos for today, and that's the Windows 8 experience. But now let's talk about what it's like to build those applications. This is the build conference, and so now we're going to build them. What's the Windows 8 platform going to look like? Okay, well, here is the platform that all of you know. This platform is, the best way to say it is, it's extremely rich, and it's extremely riddled with feedback from you over how these different parts don't exactly always work together. We've got the C# and VB world built on top of .NET and Silverlight. We've got the C and the C++ world built in the strong Win32 API. And then we've built the silo of HTML, JavaScript on top of Internet Explorer. And I think I've gotten a few pieces of mail and a few tweets and a few other things about how these things don't always all work so well together. So what I want to show you is the bold move we made to reimagine the Windows 8 platform. So the Windows 8 platform for Metro-style applications lets you pick the language that you want to use to build your applications. No matter what tool you want to use, we've got a language for you and a way to write that software. The way that we do this is we start off with the Windows kernel. The Windows kernel is the most robust, reliable, scalable kernel that exists, and we're very proud that we're bringing it forward. And that's the work that we do on fundamentals, whether it's networking and connectivity, or process and scheduling, and all the fundamentals of the operating system, some of which will be on display later. What we've done is we've reimagined the Windows APIs, and we call them the Windows Runtime, or WinRT. WinRT provides over 1,800 different objects for you to use to build your applications. First, there's an application model. That application model supports low power. It supports the full screen and immersive applications, and it supports this modern way of building software. There are communication and data objects, graphics and media, devices and printing. And all of these together are natively built into Windows. This is not a layer on top of Windows. This is Windows. It's all native code built to reflect in different languages. So you have the WinRT APIs and objects, and then we reflect those in C and C++, in C# and VB, and you could do your view in XAML if that's what you want to do. You could also see those APIs reflected in JavaScript, and then you could use HTML and CSS to define your view. All of these work together in a unified tool set. You pick the language that you want to use, and you can build your own Metro-style applications with Windows 8. And we've done a huge amount of work to reimagine the whole way that we think of tools, languages, and the platform, so that they're all coming together in a unified story for you. At the same time, we're bringing forward all of the skills that you've established and all of that code that you've figured out. We are going to show you how you can move all of that forward and be part of the Metro-style APIs. So the best way to do that, I think, is to just build an app. So let's bring up Antoine LeBlanc. He's the Senior Vice President who runs our Windows App Store. And so we're going to start by building the app, and then we're going to get it up to the store. And so let's bring Antoine out and welcome him to build some apps.
All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to show all of you how amazingly easy it is with the new platform and the new tools to actually build these great Metro-style apps. So I'm going to jump right in here. And what I'm going to do is start Visual Studio 11 Express. So this is a new version of Visual Studio that's designed to make it super easy to build kinds of apps. I'm going to do is I'm going to hit New Project here. And right here, you're going to notice something that Stephen just talked about, which is the availability of all these different languages. So the platform's essentially agnostic to the language that you decide to use. So you can pick the language and the technologies that you're most familiar with, or you think are more applicable to the kind of app you're building, and just use that.
I just want to dwell on this for a second. So there you have these templates that are standard, and then you can just scroll through and pick the language you want to start with, and you're going to get the same templates in each one.
That's exactly right.
The Windows RT just supports all the language out of the gate.
Exactly. So in particular, you know, this sort of bold bet that we've made to bring these web technologies like HTML and JavaScript to the platform really are going to enable millions of web developers that exist today to participate in this amazing new opportunity to build these apps for Windows. Stephen did point out these templates a little bit. You see here that we actually have some pre-built templates in the tool that lets give you a great way to get started. These are fully functioning Metro-style apps that give you a great starting point. But what we're going to do here is we're going to build a sort of a web app or a JavaScript version starting from a blank application. I'm going to show you how incredibly easy it is to do this. So we're going to call my app PhotoDoodle, and I'm going to just give it a name, hit OK. And what the tool is going to do here is it's going to create basically a small template app. And I'm going to describe what you're seeing really quickly. If you're a web developer, this is going to look incredibly familiar to you and super simple. I have a default.html file for my markup, for my semantic markup. If you look at what's in there right now, it's all the normal stuff that you have at the top of an HTML file. I have a default.css file that's basically there for my styling rules. And then I have a default.js file for the script behind the HTML file. So we're going to start building something here. I'm going to jump right in here into the body of the HTML, and I'm going to insert just 3 lines of HTML stuff.
We're going to use a couple snippets for this big demo just because, well, we don't want to...
You don't want to watch me type. That's right. So there's basically just 3 HTML elements in here. There's a heading tag that has just, it's going to stick the title of my app at the top. Then I have this canvas element, which if you're an HTML5 developer, you know what this is. This is one of the cool new things in HTML5. It basically gives you a 2D drawing surface that you can use. And then just a button that we're going to stick at the bottom of the HTML page. I'm going to go into the CSS file and just put a couple of styling rules in here. All I'm doing is setting the background color for the canvas so that we can actually see it on the screen, and also setting the typeface size for the heading. I'm going to write a tiny bit of code here. Now this, you'll see here that in the template it gives me some very clear guidance on where I should stick my code. So I'm just going to call a initialization function here, and what I'm going to do is just insert it here. And I'll show you really quickly. All I'm doing here is basically capturing the mouse events on the canvas and hooking them, and then drawing lines between all the mouse move points. And that's going to let me just sort of scribble on my canvas. So 23 lines of code or something.
And this code is straight HTML5. It would run in a browser.
That's exactly right. I'm going to run this right now, and it's going to run, it's going to run locally here in Windows 8, but I could take those things, hoist them on a web server, point my browser to them, and they would just run like that. So I just hit build and run here. And what it's doing, by the way, this is interesting, it's JavaScript, so it's not compiling it, it's not linking it or doing anything like that. All it's doing is it's packaging all that stuff up, installing it on the system, and running it.
So we have a new format, an app package that you'll learn a lot about over this week.
That's exactly right. So here's my little app. It's not particularly beautiful, but you can see I can touch on it, and the scribbling works, and I can use, one thing that's interesting is I can use the mouse. I even have a stylus here, and I can use that. And you'll notice I didn't have to write any special code. Actually, the input stack in the platform does a lot of clever work to make all those things look the same and work the same. So let's go back. It's, this is nice, but it's just basically a web app. It's not particularly Metro style, but it's
okay. Go.
Yeah, anytime you want to pause. So let's metrify this a little bit here. So what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to just insert a couple lines in my initialization function here. I'm going to insert just the initialization code for the button. So all this is doing is hooking the click event on the button, and I'm going to go write a little function that's going to get called when my click event gets when I get that click event. So I'm going to scroll up and show you what I put. So this is sort of the first bit of real Windows 8 code that you're going to see. And what I'm trying to do here is I want the button to bring up a file picker dialog, so I can go pick a photo and actually just stick it in that canvas. That way I can scribble on it. And if you look at this first line of code here, what you see me doing is actually calling into the Windows Runtime API. And what it's doing is it's creating a file open picker object. This is going to look really familiar to you if you've ever written, called the comment file dialogs or anything like this. What it does is it just creates the object. It initializes it by giving it a start location, telling it the kinds of files that I want. So here we're looking for image files, setting the default view to thumbnails, and then it brings the thing up, and then basically I can act with it asynchronously. And when I've picked a file, it's going to just open it and then basically take the bitmap and put it in the canvas.
So this is just a native control that you can call on from the Windows runtime, and we're calling it here from JavaScript, but you can call it from any language.
That's right. So let's do one more little bit of Windows 8 magic here. I'm going to initialize something called this data transfer object. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm going to enable the client. So Julie showed sharing between applications. So I'm going to show you how easy that is. I'm just initializing this object here, and I'm setting up a function that's going to get called when share gets invoked on this application. So let's write the code for that. Again, same kind. This is 4 lines of code. It's super simple. I'm creating this object. It's registered. I'm creating this object, and then when it's going to get called, I'm going to take the bitmap out of my canvas and then basically pass it on to the system. So I'm going to run this now, and now you're going to see something a little bit better. So I'm going to go click on Pick Photo, and here are my photos on my system.
So you now have the full touch first photo picker.
Exactly.
Wait.
You can see, as Julie showed, I can go into, for example, Socialite is basically a little client for Facebook. So right there, I can go pick photos that I actually have in my Facebook photo library.
Yeah, do you see what we just did? Like, with just a couple lines of code with the standard file dialog, you're now actually pulling photos from Facebook because that sample application that logged into Facebook was on the system. You didn't have to know it was there when you wrote your app.
That's right. We didn't write a line of networking code. So no networking code. I don't know the Facebook API or anything like that. It's pretty amazing to be able to just do that. So I'm going to pick a photo here. And here's a little photo of my dolphin. And I'm just going to scribble on it a little bit. Maybe put some sharks in there or something. Give him a mustache. Maybe draw a sun. Okay. And then I'm going to share this out. So I'm going to swipe from the right. Here's my share charm. I'm going to click on it. There's Socialite. So I'm going to basically post it on my Facebook page. And I'm going to go, shark. I don't know what sound does a scared dolphin make. I'm not sure. So there we go. And then I can just hit share in Facebook. And what it's doing now, now it's transferring that picture over. Actually, it's doing it asynchronously. Look, this was incredibly simple. Again, this was like 4 lines of code that I wrote. So
it's super cool. But it's not particularly metro-y.
Well, it doesn't look very good. The layout's all messed up and all that stuff. So let's go try and fix that. And we're going to fix that with a tool that you guys might have heard of before. I'm going to open this in Expressions Blend. Now, those of you who know Blend are going to go, well, what are you doing? Blend is a tool for editing XAML. It's not a tool for editing HTML. Well, a new version of Expression Blend basically takes all the great stuff that it can do with XAML and is able to do it with HTML and CSS as well. Okay, so here we are in Blend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, but let's start making this look better. So I'm going to go to this Assets tab, and what you're going to notice here is a long list of pre-built controls that are really there to allow you to enable sort of a lot of these Metro behaviors and these Metro looks that we have that are part of the design language for the application.
So these are all the Windows runtime Metro style controls, and later this afternoon you'll get to explore all of them throughout the course of building a big long app.
That's right, and they work with HTML apps and HTML and JavaScript apps, and the same set of controls work with XAML-based apps. We'll talk about that in a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert an app bar. So this is the little bar that sits at the bottom and swoops up and down. I'm going to make it dismissible and transient, so that's the thing that makes it actually swoop. I'm going to come back here, and what I want to do is I want to take that button that's right down here, and I want to put it inside my bar. And the way I'm going to do that, actually, I'm going to go into the DOM Explorer on the left. This is actually clever little thing. If you think about what it's doing, it has to interpret what the code does to actually generate this DOM. So the DOM gets generated at runtime. And I'm just going to drag it into the app bar.
So the app bar is just a div on the HTML page.
That's right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch back over here, and I'm going to change the display, the position to make it absolute, and that way I can just kind of drag this button to where I want it and make this look the way I want. Okay, so far so good. The button is where we want it. The other thing I'd like to do actually is to center this canvas. So this is, if there are web developers in the room and you've written web apps, this is where things get a little funky and a little hard. When you're trying to lay out an application in a world where browser windows can be dragged and resized, it gets really hard. People do this with all sorts of, you can write tons of JavaScript to react to the events and relay out things. You can use tables. A lot of people use tables, but the tables were really never designed to do layout that way.
And this is really important for Windows 8 Metro style apps because you can rotate, and we support all these different aspect ratios and layouts. So using this HTML5 proposed standard for grid is going to be really cool.
That's right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually lay out this body using this new CSS layout. that we're working on called a grid. And I'm going to define my grid. So I've set the body to be grid. I'm going to define it as just a simple 1-by-1 grid. And that's going to allow me, so now I've got it defined. And now I can take my canvas object, and I can just center it within the grid. So we're center here, and now it's centered within the grid. So maybe it seems like, okay, that's a lot of work. Maybe I could have just made an absolute position and dragged it into the middle. But as Stephen mentioned, you really have to deal with the different states that the app can be in. In fact, the tool gives me some really cool ways to do that. I don't, as a developer, I might just have a laptop that I'm working on, and maybe I can't rotate the screen, or I don't have, these apps need to be able to work on these high DPI, 27-inch screens, things like that. The tool makes it really, really easy to see these different states. So for example, here's portrait. Here's a snap view, for example. When I drag the application to the left side of the screen, here's the opposite side of it, what we call the flip view. And I can see that the app actually does exactly what I want and reacts very well to those changes.
And you can explore it at different resolutions and preview it all throughout.
Exactly.
So we really made it easy to build these Metro-style apps so that they work in the environment that your customers will have.
Right. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to save the changes I made. We're going to go back into Visual Studio, reload these things, and I'm going to build and run again. And now you're going to see, here's my app. The canvas is centered. It still works. I can swipe up and get the app bar up. Here's my pick photo button. And it all works perfectly. So I'm pretty happy with this. This, by the way, was 58 lines of code. Try writing that in another platform, on another, I challenge you to do that in only 58 lines of code. So I'm happy with my app. What I'd really like to do, Stephen early on talked about the number of Windows users who are out there. Obviously, I would love to be able to share my app with millions and millions of
hundreds of millions.
Hundreds, well, millions and millions, yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to post this app to the new Windows Store. You might have noticed here there is a store menu in Visual Studio, so that's pretty exciting. And I'm going to pick Upload Package. So what this is going to do is this basically packages up my app into the default package format for new apps. And this takes me to the onboarding portal for the store. So this is the part of the portal where I would fill out all of the information about my app, descriptions, screenshots, all sorts of things like that. I've actually filled out a bunch of this stuff already, so you don't have to watch me do it. But I did leave this one section empty, which is the selling details. And this is the part where I can pick a price for my app. Let's make it $8. It's Windows 8, right? You think I'm optimistic? It's 58 lines. Now, one thing that's interesting, there's a rich licensing model that's built into the app format itself. So I don't have to, do anything other than select the price, and the licensing model makes sure that only people who bought the app can actually use it, and you can't just pass them around, and that as a developer, your work is protected. One of the things that the licensing model actually allows is trials. So here I'm going to pick a 7-day trial. So this is going to let people actually download my app and try it before they have to buy it. I'm going to click a few more things here, set the release, just say when it's ready to go, I want it released immediately. We'll set a category for it, put it in photos. There is a checkbox here about accessibility. Obviously, accessibility support's really important, so this reminds us to make sure that we've done all the right work to make our app accessible. And I'm going to hit save. Now, as you can see, I've actually filled out all of the information for my application. And I'm going to go click Submit to Certification. So this is an interesting process. We are going to have a certification process for our applications. Part of the promise of the store to users of Windows is that the apps that they're going to get to use are going to be safe, are going to be high quality, and all those things. And part of the way we do that is through this process. These processes tend to be a little bit infamous at this point. There's a little bit of, they sometimes feel like these bureaucratic black holes that things just kind of disappear in. So part of the way we've been thinking about this is we want to go out of our way to make this process as transparent as we possibly can. So part of what you're seeing here on the screen is actually, we're going to do a really great job of showing you where in the process your app is.
We sort of made it so it's like ordering pizza. So you get all of the steps are really visible to you, and you know exactly where your app is along the way.
Exactly. One thing that's worth pointing out here is there's a technical compliance step in this, which is where we check the APIs and make sure that you're doing all the right things technically. This is typically one of those really opaque things that people don't really know what goes on, what gets checked. We're actually going to give developers all of the technical compliance tools so that they can actually run these in advance and know what the output is and just make sure that their app actually meets all the requirements there. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's go have a look at the store itself at this point. So you got to sort of figure that time has passed. What I've actually done is I actually submitted this out before so that we already have it in the store and I can show it to you. So I'm going to switch to this other machine here and show you the store itself. So right up here at the top left, you'll see there's a store tile. I'm going to click on that and show you that here I am in the Windows Store. So it's actually our design philosophy for the Windows Store has been to just keep it really, really simple and make it easy for people to browse and find the kinds of things they need, or if they know exactly what they're looking for, they can just search and go find that app specifically. It's organized into sections. This first section that you see here on the left is called the Spotlight section, and that's a programmed section of the store. If you've used app stores or been involved in app stores before, this is a really, really important area because it's a chance for us to highlight and spotlight apps that are new and noteworthy, things that we think are particularly cool and really great apps. There's also an opportunity for us in there to do some programmed content around just thematic things. So for example, here we've built a build section in the store where we can put apps that are related to the build conference. As I scroll to the right here, as I move over to the right, you can see sections or categories. There's a games category, and then there's a social category, entertainment, and all those things. I'm going to go back here and just drill into the games category. And what you see here is, again, is a really easy to browse list of games and apps that are in there. I can filter if I want, so if I want to go look at paid apps or free apps or something like that, that's all super easy to do. One thing that's worth pointing out, by the way, the store, of course, is an app. And it's a Metro-style app built using all the Metro-style controls. You'll notice the grid control and things like that I'm using here. It's actually built using HTML and JavaScript. So if you think for a second that these web technologies aren't solid enough or performant enough to actually build really, really serious stuff with, we've taken an app that is really, really important, I think, to Windows and decided to build it using those technologies. And it works just fine.
More than fine.
It works great, exactly. So I'm going to go back up to the top of the store here, and I'm going to drill into this build section, and this is where actually my photo doodle app is. So if you look at the bottom here, you can see that it's in here, and I'm going to go click on the tile for it. And what you see here is what we call the app listing page. So this is actually a really rich page that gives you, as a developer, a chance to actually market your app. So you can do things like so I'm going to scroll back down, show screenshots. I can just give a nice rich description of what the app does, and I can really do the best job I can at trying to sell the app. Also for consumers or for users of the store, it's a great chance to see what the app does and what the requirements are and things like that.
So you see, your app gets listed in this cool Metro-style application that people can swipe through or view on all of their screens and just have a great experience of being immersed in your application.
That's right. So I'm going to hit try here, and we're going to actually download the app, and I'm going to go confirm. And so what you can see here, what it's doing is actually downloading the license and installing the app. It's already done. I'm going to go back to the start screen. If I go scroll over to the right, there it is. It's installed on my system. I can run it. There you go.
Wow.
Simple enough. One more thing. I'm going to show you one more thing in the store, though. Yeah. So we didn't, it turns out we didn't just invent applications this week.
Like Win32 apps.
People have been writing Win32 apps. There are millions. I mean, it's a big part of what makes Windows is these millions of applications that people have written. So I'm going to go back to the store here and show you something. We actually have, I'm going to scroll over, let's see, where's the finance section. You'll notice down at the bottom left here, there's an app called Quicken. It's not a Metro-style app. It's a desktop app. I'm going to click on it. Here's a product. Here's an app description page for Quicken. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to list Win32 apps as well as Metro-style apps in the store. One interesting part of this is that we're not actually going to require, because there's been tons of investment around these things, and all these apps, these big apps, there's websites where they get sold and they have their own licensing models and all those things. We're not going to require people to actually rewrite those things in order to have them in the store. So we're not going to force them to use our licensing.
Right. Because we love the ecosystem that's around Windows applications, and we want to make sure that it blossoms in this world as well.
Exactly. So in essence, what we're doing here is we're giving these Win32 apps a free listing service and exposing them to to all of the hundreds of millions of Windows users.
Cool. Now you mentioned some stuff about XAML and things like that. What's up there?
That's right. Let's talk about XAML for a second. Any XAML or Silverlight fans in the room?
I think they're all sitting over, here.
Yeah, exactly. So this is something that probably looks familiar to you if you are a Silverlight developer. This is actually Scott Guthrie's blog. And a couple of years ago, he wrote this series of 8 posts that basically described how to build this cool little Silverlight client app. And Dan, it's a cool app because it actually shows off a lot about XAML layouts and XAML controls and data binding and network access and all those things. And so what I've done is I've actually downloaded the code from this app and just tried to build it in Windows. So what I'm going to do in Windows 8. So what I'm going to do here is just hit F5. This is downloaded straight off the blog, and what you see is the app right here running. So it's running in the browser. This is the desktop browser, IE10.
Which is the same rendering engine as the IE10 that Julie showed you.
Exactly, but this is a Silverlight app still, right? And it works exactly the same way it worked in Windows 7. One thing you'll notice, for example, though, is it's not a Metro app. So it doesn't, for example, the input stack doesn't give me touch access and things like that.
But it runs perfectly well because everything that runs on this Windows 7 PC is going to run on Windows 8 as well.
Exactly. So it's part of the compatibility guarantees that we make. But what we'd really like to do is take this and make it a Metro style app. So what I've done here is I'm going to close this project and show you a different one that I've created that basically is just I've taken all the files from Scott's project and moved them into a Windows 8 project. So now this isn't, you wouldn't we're moving it from one runtime environment, Silverlight, to a different runtime environment, which is Windows 8, and the runtime environments are different. And so you're not going to expect this thing to just compile, but how close do you think it's going to get? Well, it turns out actually that I've only had to make a handful of changes to this. There's some, and most of them are actually just namespace changes.
Yeah.
So the API changes are kind of reflected in these changes in the namespace, and you can see some of that here. It's really it just amounts to changing these using statements. The other things I've changed in here are actually the networking API is a little bit different. So the networking API in Windows is pretty sophisticated now because it gives you access to 3G networks and all these things.
So WinRT has a very broad networking API that you're able to tap into.
Exactly.
So you'll have to change that kind of code.
Exactly. And then the last thing is actually this app launches web pages. In Silverlight, it does that through the browser. There's a launching API in Windows. So basically, this is a handful of changes I've made. I mean, it's 3 places in this file, and then there's another namespace thing in another file. I'm going to go hit F5 and check it out. So now this looks pretty familiar, except that this is actually just a full-on Metro app. It's not running in the browser.
We're not even close to done.
So one thing, though, is, it doesn't really look like a Metro app yet. And it also doesn't do some of the things that make Metro apps, participating in this web of apps and things like that.
But you still used all that code.
Exactly. I've reused basically I didn't change any XAML, I didn't change any of the data binding code. All that stuff just works. It just came across. Everything you know about that applies here. What I'm going to go do is make one other small change here. So I'm going to go into the XAML, and you can see right here is where we bind the data to that list box view. I'm just going to get rid of that, and instead I'm going to bind it to the Windows 8 grid view. So this is the grid view that I showed you in Blend earlier.
It's a native grid view written in native code for Windows 8's Metro style apps.
Exactly. I'm going to make one other small change here. I'm going to go into this C# file, and I'm going to just write 2 more lines of code. And what this does is this is going to allow me to actually activate to connect the search term to this.
So this is just another one of those contracts, and 2 lines of code connects you up to search.
Exactly. I need to do one other thing. I'm going to go into the app manifest, and I'm just going to declare that it actually supports search. And there we go. So I've done that. Let's build and run this. Whoops. We're going to save my changes. Sorry about that. I'm going to build and run this thing again. Hey, and look at it now. That's starting to look pretty cool. So now it's in my grid. Look, you can scroll through it. Works great. Let's go over to the start page, and you can see here now if I do search and I type something like London, you'll see that actually image search is the second one from the bottom is now enabled, and I can just click on it if I can get my finger in the right place, and there it is. It got invoked there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't Microsoft use XAML in one other place?
There is one other place, and I'm going to switch to another machine and show you one more thing. The phone. So I took, again, Scott's files and turned them into, actually just copied them into a phone project. And here again, I made one small change, and it's actually that same place, the same code that we used to launch on the phone. It works a little bit differently. I'm going to hit F5. Oh, do I not? There we go. All set. One line of code.
One line of code change. So what we showed you was using the Windows runtime, made a really cool Metro app, but then that same code you could use across the different apps because it was just built on this rich XAML infrastructure.
Exactly. So all of your knowledge around XAML, around C#, around Silverlight, and all that stuff, it just carries straight across to here and really lets you do things across all these different platforms in a really easy way.
Plus, you can also write your applications in HTML5 and JavaScript, all using these amazing new tools between Developer Studio and Expressions Blend.
Exactly. There we go.
Well, thanks so much, Antoine.
Thanks, everyone.
If you thought we scratched the surface with what Julie showed, we really just scratched the surface on the developer platform and tools. So what did we just show you? Well, first and foremost, there's a new set of APIs and tools to build these Metro-style apps. So you get a modern platform with great tools, accelerated graphics, this very rich and immersive experience. The tools we showed enabled rapid and scalable development of these Metro-style apps. Touch-enabled controls, a whole library of controls natively built into Windows that you can use. Layouts, we showed grid layout, but there's a lot of work around layout, and all the templates in the tools as well. And you have your choice of world-class development tools and languages. JavaScript, C#, VB, C++, C, HTML, CSS, XAML, all for x86, 64, and ARM. This is an extremely important point. If you go and build your Metro-style app in JavaScript and HTML, in C# or in XAML, that app will just run when there's ARM hardware available. So you don't have to worry about that. Just write your application in HTML5, JavaScript, in C# and XAML, and your application runs across all the hardware that Windows 8 supports. And if you want to write native code, we're going to help you do that as well and make it so that you can cross-compile into the other platforms as well. So full platform support with these Metro-style applications. Now, what's the opportunity? I said at the beginning of this talk, we're here to launch an opportunity. The opportunity for building these applications is Windows. These applications will run on all new Windows 8 PCs, desktop, laptops, Windows tablets, small, big screens, all-in-ones. Every Windows 8 PC, whether it's a new PC or an upgrade from Windows 7, is your target customer. Do you realize that could be 400 million people when this product launches? That's a market opportunity for all of you. So now let's talk about, oh, go ahead. So next up, I want to talk about hardware a little bit. Because, wow, we've showed some new hardware over here, but, there aren't any Windows 8 PCs yet. We're just getting started with that. A lot of you in this audience are the ones who are going to help us make the hardware and peripherals for Windows 8. But what I'd like to do is invite Michael Angiulo up on stage, and he's the Corporate Vice President for the Windows Planning and Ecosystem, and we're going to show you some of the coolest devices and hardware support that's available in Windows 8.